So we got to finish it up with a part two. If you're just seeing this video, this is part two. So make sure you go back and watch part one so that you get some context for the conversation, because all of that stuff I feel like has to be said to move forward, to get that proper context of who you are and where you're going, right? So I always like doing that background context stuff. So talked about a lot, and one thing that you kind of you talked a little bit about it, your peyote ceremony that you did.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I have questions, man. I've never done it. Like I
Okay.
said, I have a friend of mine who is a member of a Native American church here in Alabama. It's the Akla Nueva Church of Inner
Ah,
Light,
I
and
see. Yeah.
he's pretty. I think he's like 4 hours away. But good friend of mine had him on the show years ago talking about should Christians use magic mushrooms was the name of the episode we did. So
Sounds epic.
I'm pretty experienced with psilocybin, and very near and dear to my heart, and know about the journey with that, and even Amanita muscaria mushrooms as well, very near and dear to my heart. But when it comes to peyote, again, he invited me to sit in on a peyote ceremony. What was that like for you? Was that because I was trying to
Mm.
ask him, just like, is it? It seems like it would be a lot more intense than a deep psilocybin encounter, which was very deep for me. What was
Yeah,
that experience like?
yeah. So yeah, for me personally, um, my first peyote ceremony was my first plant medicine. I actually did peyote before I did mushrooms. Um, and so now that I've done both, I can say that peyote is the most gentle plant medicine out
That's
existing,
weird because in my
in my
head
opinion.
I had it. It seemed way more hardcore than psilocybin.
My mushroom experiences were so much more high vibration and intense. Peyote is not intense by any means.
Wow.
Peyote, it's oftentimes ayahuasca is oftentimes referred to as the grandmother of plant medicines, as peyote is referred to as the grandfather of plant medicines. And I think that's very key. I know for me, everyone has a different grandfather grandmother dynamic in their minds, but for me, when I think of the grandfather, I think of the guy who's going to pull you up onto his lap and then tell you a story of whatever you want to hear. And it's going to make that story good. It's going to have lessons in it, even if he's not even trying. But you're going to get a good experience out of it. Um, the grandmother, on the other hand, the grandmother is the one who kind of put the house together. So when you come to her, you kind of have to come correct. You kind of have to come in, take your shoes off. You have to give her that respect that she's needed in her house. But once she has that respect, then she will feed you. So that's kind of how I break down both of the plant medicine. And so for me personally, when I first took peyote, um, it was the most clear I had ever felt consciously. The way that I kind of explain it, even as I'm guiding people, is that one thing about plant medicine is that, just as a disclaimer, plant medicines will never make you do anything that you don't want to do. And that's one of the biggest things when people who haven't tried plant medicine before, they have the fear of, when this thing is in me, what if it makes me do something crazy? And the reality of it is, even the people who have tripped out on different experiences, not even peyote, I've never met anyone who's tripped out on peyote. But anyone who's tripped out on those experiences in general, most of the times the trips are occurring because they're designed to shatter the ego. So typically when we go into these experiences and we have a very heavy ego, and I use ayahuasca as example because I know a lot of people have had very crazy experiences with ayahuasca. And again, it kind of helps with the analogy of ayahuasca is a god. These plant medicines that God, the Most High, left here for us to be able to be guides for our consciousness. These are managerial positions in our experience in our world. And so a lot of people, when they go into these experiences, they tend to like to go into them thinking what they're gonna do and what they want to get out of it and how it's gonna work when they take it. This was me too. I had all these intentions on what I and how the experience I wanted to have. And right before my first experience, right before my first ceremony, I spoke to someone very wise and I asked them what mentality should I have going into this. And what he told me probably saved my experience, but he said, release every expectation you have on what you're going to get out of this experience. And when I did that is what allowed me to be completely open to what that plant medicine had for me. You know, and so when I've met people who've had experiences about, you know, traumatic experiences, you know, some guy I spoke to recently said when he took ayahuasca, you know, he saw a giant snake that like completely surrounded him. And it was just terrorizing. And what I communicate with people is that oftentimes we don't realize that the only thing blocking us from the things that we want in life sometimes is our own ego. Right. And so when we take a plant medicine is a way to fast track your conscious healing. So it's designed to allow you to enter into a space where you can heal your spirit. We have pharmaceuticals that are designed to heal the body. We have Tylenol you take when you have a headache. You know, plant medicine is what you take when your spirit is out of balance. And so when we go into these spaces and we go into these plant medicine spaces, it's important that we recognize that we must go into these spaces with an intention, but that we learn the balance of not being attached to expectations. And so once we come into this space in perfect balance, that's when we see the magic. And that's when we're able to experience these, or we're able to consume the medicine that is able to open us up to these experiences and show us truly what's within ourselves. If anyone has an experience of a plant medicine being scary or, you know, being something that is terrorizing, just know that it's only showing them what's inside of themselves. And a lot of times people don't want to look at that stuff that's inside of themselves. That's why they buried it down. And another note on burying it down and why people say that plant medicines are hallucinogen. Me personally, I've never hallucinated before on any plant medicine. What I truly personally have experienced were there were concepts and there were ideas that were circulating around me while I was under the plant medicine that I could not run away from. The plant brought things up in my life that forced me to heal them, that forced me to look at them. And so for me, I kind of felt like these things that I didn't want to look at were like these spiritual beings. And I kept trying to move these spiritual beings out of the way and wave my hand over them, and they weren't going away. And so that's why I look at them as a hallucinogen. That's the only way I look at them as a hallucinogen, in the sense of there is nothing you can physically do to wave them away. You have to deal with them internally.
Man, that's so good. There wasn't any uncomfortableness or anything like that. Things getting kind of weird.
I was terrified when I went into it.
Was it just because of the unknowing though, or
100? Well, not only the one
feels
the
different. Was it trying to pull you? Because like the psilocybin for me, it was pulling me, and I was like, no, and I was like trying to hold on. He's like, hey, quit fighting it, man. I'm like, no. He's like, close your eyes, quit fighting it. And once I did, we go on a roller coaster.
Yeah. Great question. It wasn't necessarily that the plant medicine called me. It was more so the season I was in my life was showing me that something is radically shifting. And so within that, knowing that I knew that I had that something was radically shifting, I got offered peyote. So I was more so like, okay, crap, this must be a big thing for me because I know all this is happening. And then I'm offered this plant medicine when I've never done a plant medicine before. And so it was almost like I knew that I was stepping into a new world. I just had no idea what that world was going to look like. And so for me, my biggest fear when it comes to any plant medicines, I mean, any experience that's going to take me out of my body, my biggest fear is being powerless.
Yeah.
I've even went through therapy sessions when I was a kid, you know, and they would ask me to envision my worst nightmare. And I would envision myself being in the middle of an ocean, like at nighttime.
I have those nightmares.
See what's under me.
And it's like nightmare in the middle of an ocean. Yeah.
The most power. And so that's what she told me. She said, oh, you have a fear of being in absolute powerlessness. And that was something that I was grateful to be aware of, because
does any of that come from church background, or is that just mind stuff?
It's actually a superpower. So it's actually what happens when you're born in the mind, when you're born in the ego, you're used to being in your power through the mind. through the ability of being able to logistically break down what's going on in front of you.
Yeah.
And so when we step into plant medicine space, we're stepping into the feminine space for the first time. The feminine is vast and infinite. We can't touch any of it. And so for someone who was born into the mind, that is the most traumatic experience that they're going to have to learn how to transcend.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it, though, is that most people, and this is even as I teach in Christ conscious coaching, every trauma is a superpower. Every trauma is a superpower. Every trauma is a superpower. So what I teach people is that the hardest part is identifying what the trauma is. Once you identify the trauma, the opposite of that trauma is your superpower. So if you've got a trauma of being powerless and getting fearful in these powerless states, what it's really saying is you have a natural ability of being naturally powerful. And so we have to learn how to, and that's when we step into that. And that's what the plant medicine shows us, how to integrate our power. And it's like, you know, a good example that I use is like, imagine like X-Men, right? And most X-Men, when they become X-Men, it's after a traumatic experience because they're transmuting the trauma that they've had into identifying why that's the thing that made them so unique in this experience.
What the enemy meant for your harm, God will in turn use for your good. The thing that you thought was going to kill you is going to be the very thing to help you step into your destiny.
Perfect example of that was Paul, because Paul was an individual who in the beginning killed Christians for a living.
Yeah.
His job was to actually find people who were worshiping Christ and to slaughter them. And then within 3 days of being blinded, it's crazy how he had to be blinded to see the light. But 3 days he was blinded and his third eye opened. And now all of a sudden we have this man who was killing Christians writing majority of the New Testament of the Bible and opening up churches all over the world. So I think it's so beautiful when we see, and again, like you said earlier in our first message, brother, like the Bible is a guide for us. So even Paul is a mental aspect of the self. It's the part of us that when we find our light, right, the first thing we want to do is reject Christianity. We want to reject our roots, right?
Yeah.
And then
That's
it's like
any root, though, you know, it's abandoning the faith of your fathers is what it is.
It really is. And so now we get even deeper because now we start getting into this pattern that we see of leaving your home and then returning back to it, and then recognizing that the journey of you leaving and coming back to it is the reason why you were there to serve in the first place. And that's what we're seeing, and that's what Christ taught, because that's the way of the alchemist. The way of the alchemist is the purification process of starting off in the shadow and then going into the light and then calibrating yourself back into perfect balance. And every single time we go in that process, we come back at a higher dimension of reality, which is also the reason why Nikola Tesla did everything in threes. He was aware of the calibration process of the alchemist that requires you to go step 1, be in the shadow, step 2, step into the light, step 3, come back into perfect recalibration. So if I did something one time and it was my first time doing it, then I obviously went into it in pure ignorance. Once I go into it with that ignorance, I now have data of what happened in that experience. So now that I have data, I'm into my light. Now that I have that data, though, I take that light and I decide how to best move forward next. This is also the Fibonacci sequence. So the Fibonacci is about adding what's previously before to make the new digit. So this is all tying everything together. And that's why the Bible does it so perfectly, because it gives multiple examples and reasoning of people leaving their space of comfortability, coming back into it, and then falling into perfect purpose, which is God's will.
It's like probably every character, every story in the Bible has that.
Every story. And that's why, because it's every person in the Bible is a cell in our own body. And each cell has different functions, different names, different body organs, different pieces, but they're all going through the same transformation because we as collective beings are all going through the same transformation.
That's good. When it comes to plant medicine, such a, you know what I'm saying, powerful tool, powerful medicine to work with. What about those people who would say, I don't need medicine, I don't need plant medicine because I can achieve those states through using my imagination. I can achieve those states through breath work, Kundalini yoga, fasting, whatever it is. So there's be some people who would say like, they would kind of say that it's just a cheaper route to get to some, like you're not doing the work. And I've even said it in the past. Right. I can achieve those heightened states and leave my body through breath work, and I don't need mushrooms. I don't need peyote and those kind of things.
You're right. You don't need them, because us as human beings, we don't need anything. We don't need cars. We could walk everywhere we wanted to go. What does a car do? A car helps us get there faster. So the breathing work, the meditations, those are all great things to help you access your Kundalini awakening. The difference is, prior to Christ, your Kundalini awakening took multiple lifetimes to accomplish. You had to kill your flesh and destroy your flesh over multiple lifetimes. Christ came as a template to show people how to get it done in one lifetime. And so people will always have the freedom. You have the ability to heal yourself of a headache anytime you want to. It'll take a lot quicker if you pop the Tylenol, but you always have the ability. And that's where we get into nature versus nurture. Nature is going to heal everything. Nature can evolve everything, but it takes time. When fire first came down to earth, fire represented innovation. Fire is the only element that had to have two other elements make it. All the other elements simply existed. And so fire represents the friction that has to come together to make new change. And that's why I believe fire was the first technology. And so when fire came into place, all the things that were already here just began to evolve faster. That's it. You know, the foods that they had now began to get cooked faster and get processed faster. You know, then they began to harness energy with the fire, and then energy became electricity. But we already had the sunlight. We already had lighting half the day, but we evolved through that. And now we're able to cut time in half by being able to have light all the time, whether the sun is out or not. And so we will always have the ability of doing things naturally in our body. And that serves us when we don't think the body can do anything. When we think that only the pharmaceuticals, that only the car, that only the money is what brings us our success and our abundance and who we are in Christ, in those times are the times where you need to relinquish from all of those things so that you can recognize that you are more than just that. And on the flip side of that, because again, the goal is not to be on either side of the spectrum. No. The goal is to be perfectly centered into balance. So if you are an individual that believes that all natural is the way, then you are still hindering your own personal journey, because there are certain things that you're designed to do this lifetime. There are certain things you're designed to do this year that money helps you get done this year. But if you're someone that thinks, oh, I don't need money because God's going to take care of me, you're right. He is going to take care of you, but it's going to be a lot longer for you to get what it is that God has for you, because you're setting your intention being so general. You're saying, God, just take care of me. And that is a great thing, because God will definitely get to you when he wants to.
Yeah.
But for the people that says, God, I need this right now in my life right now, I need you're funneling your co-creation energy into a specific outline, a specific desired outcome. And when you do that, like a sprinkler, when you funnel that into one, projected target, it reaches the destination a lot faster.
Yeah. A lot of those people who are doing that, God, just take care of me, those things, they're doing the same thing, but the target's a lot smaller. Like, exactly. Again, I know homeless people who are believing for that one meal a day. Like, they're believing they're believing and praying that God's gonna give them. And literally, to them, it was a miracle. They begin to praise the Lord when they found it. They found a coupon for a free taco at Taco Bell. Thank the Lord met our needs today, everyone. And so that same faith that's tied to looking for this free thing or looking for God in it, it's the same faith that takes to, again, book a session or pay a light bill or whatever it is that you're believing for to get to the next level, that God has given you the vision for. Maybe they don't have the vision. Maybe their vision is just in the woods and living, as that. And God, He meets you where you are. He gives you the faith, and He'll meet you where you're at. But it's the same faith. I don't even think it's a greater faith. Maybe their vision is greater, but faith as small as a mustard seed is all it takes. It doesn't take some big, great, grandiose faith to build this big church or big community of people or to heal all this stuff. It's only just a little bit of faith that you use as your vehicle.
And I'm glad you're touching on that, because I think that even in Scripture, people look at when in the Bible where it says the faith the size of a mustard seed can, move mountains. We oftentimes look at the mustard seed in its size of relativity, but we don't necessarily look at it as as a sampling size. Like it's not about having the faith to move the mountain. It's about having a little bit of faith that it's possible for a mountain to move. And that's a very key thing, because there are a lot of people that just need to have faith in a little thing, but they need to have whole faith in that little thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an individual, I'm building an entire world. So I have faith that I'm building an entire world, right? But you don't need to have the faith for the entire world. You just need to have a little bit of faith that it's possible for a new world to be birthed from an old. And that's all you need for God to set you on the timeline of your highest good. And that's what I'm excited about in teaching Christ conscious coaching, because, and preaching on Christ consciousness, because, you know, scripture and Christianity prior to this point has been about serving Christ, and it's about kind of being under Christ. And again, that served a purpose, you know, for a time, because people were even further behind in even serving Christ, you know. So to be able to evolve into a point where you're just like, okay, you know, now I know that I have the power to, you know, to be saved from the things in my life that may have taken me off course from where I've been trying to go. Now Christ consciousness is showing, okay, now I can adopt the mindset so that I never have to fall off track again. And if I do, I'm able to transmute it and recognize how I never fell off track to begin with. I was just simply needing to understand a lesson that was designed to take me to the next place that I'm destined to go. And so that's what Christ is doing. Christ says, I will make all things new. Well, once all things are made new, nothing is old anymore. So to me, that's like, once all things are made new, there's no more wrong. There are only lessons. So it's a matter of, we enter into, going back to our video game example. So we log into this video game, and the only rule is to gain experience points. So we can do whatever we want. There's no rules in this experience outside of the rule of karma. Karma is the Xbox that governs the games that we play. So once we log in, we abide by the energy you send out comes back to you, because that's the only way you can learn your lessons. So when something takes place in our life, the people who end up getting ahead in life are just the people that experienced more of life, because they ended up learning more lessons. So they end up learning and expanding consciousness quicker. So they ended up evolving quicker. So they become the Jesuses. And so now you have, when you become the Jesus, now you want to get as close to divinity as humanly possible, and then spread those rays of light to everyone you possibly can. And that was actually quoted from Midnight Gospel.
Oh, nice. Good stuff. Here's an idea. Let me get your take on this. So, talking to a lot of people in the New Age movement, spiritual movement, whatever you want to call it, and being a Christian, there's this phrase that they talk about a lot when I'm talking about God, or people talk about what Jesus did for them, and without Jesus I am nothing, and he has given me new life, and he has given, you know, we hear testimonies and stuff. But when some of these New Age people, they hear that, there's a term that they say that you're giving your power away to another God, or to a Jesus that you already have within. And they almost, they kind of smirk at it and say, you guys aren't owning your power. You're giving your power away to God, or you're giving your power away to Jesus, or even the Holy Spirit. Is that you're not standing in your power, but you're giving your power away to an outside source. And they kind of downplay it and kind of make fun of it just a little bit. And I think they do it unknowingly, because they don't really understand like that connection, that Christ is that source of life for us, who helps us find our own divinity within once we're connected. Like, there's a lot of stuff to it. What would you say to that? Have you ever heard that term, that you're giving your power away to Yahweh, or to Jesus, or to any that kind of stuff?
That person? Yeah, sure. I definitely am excited to break this down. So when someone says, you know, giving your power to Christ, or when someone says, you know, through Christ I'm healed, I oftentimes look at that as parenting. And as a parent, or in the relationship of a parent with your child, when I have a daughter, right? My daughter's 2.5. when I had my daughter, half of me went inside of my daughter. Half of my ex-wife went inside my daughter as well. So now my daughter has half my wife and half of me inside of her, which is creating a complete new being. Right? So when this being comes to me and says, Daddy, I need help, or I'm hungry, can you provide this for me? For me to do that service to her, okay, does not defy the power that she has within her. She is me, and she's also her own sovereign being. And I want to state this clearly because this is actually what I coined this term, but I call this transdimensional reality. And what happens is as we are ascending from third dimensional consciousness into fifth dimensional consciousness, because we're experiencing that journey to and fro, we're leaving duality and stepping into neutrality. We almost end up talking through two different lenses, right? So for my daughter, if my daughter was grown up and she said, Dad, I'm you, she would be right in a lens because there's half of me inside of her. But then if she also said, Dad, I'm me, I'm not you, she's also right in that. So we see how two things are true, are true within their own respective dimensions. It's almost equivalent to, again, imagine the relationship of being in a movie, and then imagine you being a character in that movie, making that entire movie, and then imagine you going to the movie theater and watching that movie. So now you have a version of you that's in a third dimensional realm, which is in the movie, playing the role. You have a duality, you have good, you have evil, and you have a story plot that's designed to progress to the end of the movie. But then you have the version of you that's watching the movie. And in that version of you that's watching the movie, it's having a complete different experience than the version that's actually in the movie. So in the movie, you may call someone evil. In this 3D earthly experience, you may look at someone, a pedophile or whatever the case is, as being evil, someone needs to be stopped. And so it's recognizing that that's true. In the movie, they need to be stopped. What they are doing is evil and it's toxic and doesn't hurt, or it doesn't help anyone. But in the fifth dimensional self, the spirit realm, you recognize that that person in the movie who is playing as a pedophile is playing the role of that character so that a message could be delivered. And this is why we have to learn how to transcend judgment, because only when we remove our judgment can we appreciate every single person who is in the experience.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite movie is Django. My dog's name is Django, right?
Great movie.
And, right? Liberation, right? And, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio is the antagonist in that movie. Leonardo DiCaprio is also my favorite actor. So thank God I don't allow the character that he's playing in my favorite movie become who he actually is as a person. Two different dimensions.
That's strange you say that, dude, because yesterday I was watching Seth Green interview on Vanity Fair where he was going through all of his roles. And there was one skit that he played on the show Entourage where he played himself, but they gave him this a scenario where he was like sleeping with somebody, like one of the main characters' girls, and then they had it out. But even just because he used his real name and it was him, even though it was like fictitious and he played into it, everybody thought that it was kind of real and that he was a jerk because in that skit he like, you know, played this role, but that played into how people really saw Seth Green, which was interesting. Just going back off what you just said, because we know watching that they have different names and different titles. What if he was like? What if it was an autobiography type deal? We were like, hey, we feel different about you, right. Versus like projecting those ideas onto people that are just playing those roles, which is interesting.
Yeah, the life of the alchemist is about learning how to be aware of how people will receive your messages, how people are going to receive your consciousness. So again, there's a reason why in the Bible, God changed people's names. When Paul before Paul was Paul, he was Saul. When he was killing Christians, he was a certain archetype.
Mm-hmm.
The name change is what protected him from the people that he turned his back against to go and serve the Lord. So it's what kept his reputation from preceding him. And God knows that. The ultimate storyteller, he knows how names follow people. That's why when God said, "Who am I?" He said, "I'm the great I am." We're all I am. God is the great I am. When we say I am, we are saying the name of God. Everything that comes after that is our ego. Everything that comes after that is how we take that infinite cosmic energy and funnel it into something that is very unique, very specific to this very present experience lifetime. And so I hope I answered your question in that space, but it's like we have to really just be mindful of the magic that is working on our behalf. You know, you calling yourself TruthSeekah, that's a magic. You are people. I know. I don't even know your real name. To be 100% honest with you,
It don't matter.
I want you to think about this though. Your TruthSeekah name has now become more important than your 3D name. And what that TruthSeekah is, that's your astral name. That's your archetype and your fifth dimensional self. Because we're transitioning into an era where our virtual selves are going to be more valuable than our 3D selves.
Already are. You could be whatever you want to be on the internet. You could be whatever you want. Whatever you want. Think of. You can create a website, create the persona, create an avatar, and it's you. And as much energy as you put into it, it becomes real. For me, like, you know, one thing about the Bible and the Hebraic perspective is that when they gave their children names, or even changing Saul to Paul, it's a persona, and it was something that was going on. Like if it's a woman that was in travail, or even the name Michael means close to God. You know what I'm saying? These names mean something. So when I gave myself that name, TruthSeekah, when it resonated with me and said, you know what, that's the name I want to go. I didn't know what all was going to be in store. That I was like going to grow into that name on so many levels. I just thought it was a really cool rap name, and I thought Jesus was the truth. So I seek after the truth, but how much the truth in all types of matters, the truth of aliens, the truth of ayahuasca, the truth of this, the truth of that. Give me the truth. And so you grow into that. People introducing themselves as a name or a trait, and you find yourself growing into it, which was interesting. But that's the Hebraic perspective when it comes to a name. The name is a character. It's just not something random, that somebody has.
Absolutely. And I think what's something key to piggyback on that is that the original names of everything and anything came from nature. Okay, so where did they get these names from, or how do these names have power? Well, when the first name of something, whenever something is first classified as its original I am, it capsulizes that energy signature. And so based on that first name, we take on the energy presence of the things that are found in nature. Again, kind of going back to our first video, we talked about, currency being a current. So what happened was, if we backtrack the etymology of that, somebody was looking at how a river current flows, and they said, I want my resources to flow into my life just like that. So they said, well, if you did that, what would you call that? Well, based on what I'm seeing in this current, I'd call that a currency. And so what we are realizing, and this is, I want to dive into this, but it's going to be another session. But if you look at even the top 10 most successful companies in the world right now, all of their logos, all of their emblems, and their wording are designed to resemble parts of nature, because nature is the true goddess. So these companies, again, are ran by people who are very powerful alchemists, whether consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah.
So and honestly, it'd be foolish to think that they got to where they are unconscious. But we can keep it neutral.
Yeah.
But these
Illuminati.
individuals, understand, right? These individuals understand the nature of names because they know that if I call my business this name and this name is attached to this energy frequency that is found naturally in nature, then every single time I call this name, it's going to electromagnetically attract
Yeah.
the same resonance as what is found in nature. So if I want my current to flow in a bank, I'm going to create a system that holds money called a bank that a current can flow through. Now, all of a sudden, we wonder why banks flow just like riverbanks. You know, we look at we look at a ballot in the voting system. The word ballot, BAL, came from the god Baal. And so if you look at the story of Jericho in the Bible, um, um, when is it the Israelites? I believe it was the Israelites. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they were marching around the wall of Jericho.
Yeah.
There was a time where the people inside of Jericho sacrificed a child and offered it to Baal. And then in scripture, it literally says that day, basically Baal defended the Israelites for one day until the next day it fell. So this tells me one of two things. One, this also says there's a God that actually can hold off another God's plans. So that tells you that's multiple gods right there. Like, how could this God that allegedly no other God is real, even though scripture says thou shalt not put any other God before me, which proves that there are also other gods. But not only that, but we also have this scripture where Baal is offered something to, and in return, they're protected. So the reason why I bring up Baal is because Baal is the root word in the word ballot. What is a ballot? A ballot is you giving your energy away to a higher power. And then you have an election. Oh, what's the first root of the word election? Elect, as in electricity. So you have a process of giving energy away, and that is forming an election, right? And so again, we see how these words in our history that we use every single day are pure magic. And that's the power of magic. We don't even recognize the magic. We don't even see the magic. We don't even comprehend the magic. It just happens all around us and we don't even tap into it. And so Christ consciousness is about being able to tap into it, understand it, overstand it, understand it, embody it, make it practical into your life so that you can begin to walk within your own purpose.
That's good. Have you heard of a lady? Her name's Laurel Erica, and she has a thing called her ministry or whatever called Word Magic, and she had a video that went viral a couple years ago. Like some of the other like conscious Facebook pages ripped her video and re-uploaded it, but basically she was given like the etymology of words and break it down. Like, you know, you work and then you get tired and look forward to the week's end, but it's the week, WEAK, week's end. And she talked about like you get a job. Well, Job is the same way you spell job, and Job in the Bible was one who was, you know, in anguish and stuff like that. She breaks down the etymology of words. Anyway, she's an amazing individual. I had her on the show about a year ago, and I'm gonna have her back on Wednesday. But if you haven't had a chance to check her out, look her up. Because she's got her own poetry she uses the etymology with. But Laurel Erica, and I also had her on her first rap song. She was like 70 something years old, and jumped on a rap song with me and killed it. Yeah.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep. You got to hear it. It's a song called Words. It's
What?
a song called Words. Yeah. And I'll say I'll use my word for magic. I will use my words to heal. My word, you know, just talking about the power of words and the power of the spoken words and stuff. So check that out for sure. But yeah,
I wrote her name down. That was my first time hearing about her, but I'm glad she's
You've
out
probably
there.
seen her. Like once you see that video, like the viral one, it'll probably snap, and you know, because it was a pretty popular video. A lot of people took all of her analogies there and started teaching them and didn't give credit or anything. Yeah, wow. A bunch of people in the spiritual movement had YouTube stuff going on. So yeah.
Wow, interesting.
But
yeah, I definitely check her out. I mean, if you're someone who is any type of manifester, you should fall in love with words. You should be in love with words. Me personally, I do quantum healing. And so my sessions are $400 for one session. The session lasts no more than 30 to 45 minutes. The reason being is because the second we begin the session and I ask you the first question, every single word you say is a spell. And so I'm listening to the spells that you're placing on yourself. Mm-hmm. And the second you speak a spell that you don't realize you placed on yourself, I stop you and we dismantle that spell. And then we create a new spell. And then you continue describing yourself, talking about yourself. And so by the end of the conversation, we've just simply removed all the subconscious programming that you weren't even aware was running in your background. But because I understood your words, I was understanding what curses and spells you were putting out, and we were able to transmute those and clear them all out. And now you have a healthy running program of consciousness.
That's awesome. Yeah, find the lie and nullify is what I call it.
Find the lie,
nullify. Switch it up. Here's the video. It's a short 2-minute video. You won't be able to see it, but you better hear it. I should be able to. Let's see.
We awake each morning and go off during the weekdays to earn the living at various jobs and undertakings until we come to the weekend. And this seems perfectly acceptable to most people. However, more people die between 6 and 9 on a Monday morning than any other time of the week. So I do what I call a translation of the English language, and I spell that Trance, with the idea that words cast spells. So when you translate that life sentence, you remember that awake is a funeral party for the dead. Mourning is the state you're in when you attend a wake. And you would have to be in a weekdays to earn the living, since urns are for the ashes of the dead. We call our jobs undertakings. Job itself is a Hebrew word for persecuted. And what we get at the end of this perverse bargain with life is the weak end of the deal, as we become progressively weakened ourselves.
Wow.
And so our most prevalent greeting to each other is hello, the reverse of which is, oh, hell. And at first, I suspected the hands of collusion entangling the language to foster illusion. And I think it's quite true that a culture's theology has a great deal to do with a word's etymology and how it evolves over time to combine incompatible meanings that may undermine the original thoughts it was meant to define. But now, I don't think it's planned, for the thing that I've found is that like concepts can gravitate toward the same sound and vibrate at the rate that our thoughts designate. Because words are electromagnetic vibrations whose fine alphabetic tintinnabulations can take on the tint of our true expectations, which they then imprint on our metal of mind, causing sounds to adhere when they're of the same kind.
Yeah, she's a beast, man. Laurel Erica.
That's.
I got her on a rap song. I'm telling you, she killed it.
Dude, that is. Yeah. Next time, lead with that. That like blew my mind. I just can't just say, yeah, I got a 70-year-old lady to rap on one of my track. Like,
you gotta hear it.
Never.
Yeah. No, dude, her stuff, and she talks about, like, she does a lot of stuff about the elementals and fairies and magic. Ooh. Yeah, she goes into everything. She's super deep. Really cool lady.
I'd love to chat with her about stuff like that.
That's
another thing that my most recent Bible studies have been debunking the extraterrestrials that are within the Bible, because there are
as in
what's the difference between an ET and an angel?
Oh, okay, yeah. yeah. Mine too.
Right, and so a lot of people, it's interesting because a lot of Christians oddly don't believe in extraterrestrials. If
they do, they're demons.
If they do, the demons, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, what I began to realize are what I call principalities of God. So like God to me is, it's funny, as I broke this down, I began to see Genesis like the bringing together of a company.
You see, you wasn't the first person I heard that. It was somebody teaching the law of manifestation to me, somebody deep, and okay, I know what it was. It was dealing with the Kabbalah, breaking it down. Like it's a Kabbalistic understanding of manifestation going through Genesis is what it was, and you can apply it to a company or whatever. So yeah, that was interesting that you kind of echoed that.
Absolutely. And it really is, because we start seeing the chain of command of things. We start seeing Christ as the CEO, and we start seeing God as the founder. So the person that we kind of never ever see, but the one that always gets credit for everything. And then we have the Christ, which is the person who was stewarding over earth, but also just the one kind of taking care of things for the all true creator. And also taking that same ideology, we have the fallen angels. So these became in the Bible known as the Nephilim. And so now we start having different hierarchies, because now we have fallen angels. And then from the fallen angels, we also have now giants. So right off the bat, we have giants on one level, we have the fallen angels on another level, then we have Christ, then we have Jesus. And that's not even including the archangels. So what we started seeing a chain of command.
A hierarchy, a host hierarchy of heaven.
Yes. And so it's like, it's foolish to believe, again, as above, so below. That's one of the things that I feel that people are constantly overlooking and understanding about just that one phrase, is that if we are truly trying to understand what is going on in the heavens, then all we have to do is understand what's going on right here in front of us.
Yeah.
Because just like a child, if a child wants to understand their parents, all they have to do is understand themselves more. So the more that we begin to understand ourselves, the more we begin to understand God, who's our parent, And so, that's something that was just really key to me, because there are so many times, like imagine being a part of a company, and imagine in this company, there are people that are designed to help you and support you in certain things. But because you don't know these people and you think these people are evil, you only try to reach out to the founder for your issues. So it's like you're calling this phone like, hey, my register is broken. Hey, we ran out of items in this store. And it's like you're trying to talk to the founder who is already gone, when you don't realize that he already set things in place and people in place to be able to help you tap into the things that you need.
Chain of commands.
The chain of commands. And so I believe that what Christ, when Christ returns, is that I believe that he is going to really, really show us that chain of command and show us how it serves our collective. Because again, it's not going to be any different from you being an employee or wherever you are on your level of consciousness. And then you have a manager that also has a area manager, that also has a district manager, that also has, whatever CEO.
That's the principalities for sure. Yeah.
100%. And it's like to think that God wouldn't have anything else.
Yeah.
Would be foolish. Like why, if we as gods, in the Bible, it says you are gods, children of the Most High, but you will die like men. So if us as being little gods, children of the Most High, well, when we build worlds, because all a business is a world. When you go into work, the person who owns that place is your God. He tells you what to do. He gives you money, which is your provision that helps you take care of your clothing, your food, everything on your back. When you have an issue, you pray to him. You type an email up and tell him what your issue is. So that is our God when we enter into these spaces. The government is a God. The government is running the world of America. And within that, there are principalities. There's one person at the top.
And literally they call it that, different principalities.
And it's right in front of us.
Yeah.
This is the thing I think is really cool, because once we recognize that it's always been in front of us, get this, we recognize that we never actually left heaven. When we recognize that everything has always been around us, we were just not conscious of what was already around us. We never had to leave heaven. We just had to think we were never there. And so that is the Christ return message, I believe.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people echoing that, even Christians to this point of the whole thing was that you've got amnesia. You've even if you was to trace it back, like the whole, what I'm saying, if you trace it back to Adam and Eve, the deal that they were in Eden, walking with the Lord, nothing changed that. They forgot, they saw, what was going on outside of them, literally outside of them, and started resonating and identifying with that over what they already were. You're not going to become like God when you eat this fruit. That was the lie, because they already were.
Right. That's why for me, it really helps me see the beauty of God in the storytelling of God. Like anyone ever think about, you ever had anyone come on the show and ask the question, like why was Satan in the garden to begin with? Or like, why was the tree of knowledge in the garden to begin with?
God wanted to tempt you and he knew you was going to eat it and all that.
Right. All this stuff. Right. But what if that's the case? Let's say that was true.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, you have a child and let's say, the child is going to, wants to put a fork in a socket. You tell your child, hey, if you do that, you're going to get electrocuted. Right. But what if you were so wise that, even though you were saying that, you knew that they were going to do it anyway, hoping that they would do it anyway, so that after they did it, you could save them, let them know how right you were. That way, the next time when they're contemplating whether to listen to you or not, they will. So what if the entire Bible was that? A story just to have an experience of your child coming back to you. So you create Satan when you do that. When you have to do that, you have to create something that can pull in the opposite direction so that you can experience the process of them coming back to you. That's why we're in this journey of remembrance, because it's such a beautiful thing to remember that we're already here.
Yeah.
That's what better happy ending could you imagine as God? Imagine this was on TV and we're like, everyone is like, yo, we got to prepare. We're all going to heaven. And then at the end, God says, you've been here all along. For me, that's the biggest irony of all of this. Even in Revelations, the return of Christ said it will happen within a blink of an eye. So we've been blinking this whole chat. So it could have already happened. And if we're not consciously aware of it, then we won't think it happened at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's deep, man. It's happening within. It's happening, Christ coming back to sit upon the seats in the throne of our hearts, sitting and all of that stuff in Revelations happening within. That's the alchemical process that you're reading about that is hidden in the book of Revelation. Like everything that you read, because a lot of that stuff already happened. You know what I'm saying? Whether they was talking about stuff that happened in Daniel and all types of other stuff, and even after the time of Christ, supposedly. But all of it taking place within you. And it talks about Christ coming back. Part of me wonders is it like, does it happen right before you die or whatever? Because I'm thinking too, like we go back, and this is something I never talked to nobody about, but looking at Stephen, when Stephen lived his life for the Lord and he was about to get stoned for Christ's sake, he looked up into the sky and he saw the clouds depart and he saw Christ descending, welcoming him, well done, good and faithful servant. It's like, dang, is that something that all of them experienced on that, as they were, transitioning out of this world to the next, that Christ comes and welcomes them in, and that's the return of Christ too? It's just something deep to think about.
What's interesting, I think it is something deep to think about. I can only speak on my own experiences in my life. So there was a ceremony that I had. It was my fifth ceremony. It's my fifth and last peyote ceremony that I actually consumed the medicine myself. And at that point, I began shepherding other people. Mm-hmm. And I remember taking the medicine, and I didn't feel anything the entire day. I was sitting there 8 hours. Everyone was talking about their experiences, and I had nothing. And then at the very end of the ceremony, they have a closing ceremony where people say their closing remarks and the things they learned. And at the closing ceremony was when the peyote first kicked in for me. And so what it communicated to me was, it said 3 words. It said, naked is healing. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty good message. And he's like, no, you don't hear me. Naked is healing. And it kept saying that over and over again until what I recognized was it was the Holy Spirit telling me, because I had been, my intention for this ceremony was am I done taking this plant medicine or not? Like, have I got everything I need to get out of it? And at the end of the ceremony, it said, naked is healing. And so basically what it was telling me was, until you are able to stand naked in front of everyone, until you see how perfect you are within yourself, when everyone is looking at you and judging you and casting you out, until you can sit in that space and feel bliss, you will not be healed. So the lead shaman said, does anyone else have any closing remarks? I said, yes, I do. And I stood up. I looked around at everyone for a good whole minute. My heart was beating so fast, I could hear it racing out of my chest. And I took my clothes off in front of 85 people. And I sat there completely naked. And they hated me so much for it. They thought I was the most disrespectful. They thought I was just trying to show my dick. They thought that I was trying to take that moment for myself. They thought that I was just completely driven in my ego. The head shaman told me to put my clothes back on. And in that space, I had a voice in my head that said, you feel that? That's what Christ dealt with. I want you to find peace in recognizing that Christ is in you right now. So I sat there and I opened my arms up while they were chastising me. I closed my eyes. And at the end, I said, I want you all to look at this reflection of your own nakedness. And I want you to look at all the judgment you are having at innocence. What was ironic was that there were two little kids that were playing on this land that we had that were naked. And it's like, it's so interesting how you can look at these kids as innocent. But when I try to open myself up, all of a sudden there's judgment, there's hatred. But it's the same level of innocence. And so what Christ was showing me that day was that that's the work. The work is being able to sit in the vibration of feeling naked, knowing that you are the most powerful person in that space right then. Because being able to hold that container is what love is. Being able for people to throw those stones at you and you to be able to smile. That is the power of love that breaks any stronghold, any struggle, any trauma, any guilt, any shame, any illusion. That love, because here's what I realized. When I was in that space and those people were judging me and they were calling me these names, because I gave them no response, when they left ceremony, the only voice they had to think about what happened was their own. I didn't give them anything to say, and he had the nerve to say this, or he had the nerve to think this. All they could hear is, what did I say when he got naked? I called him ego-driven. So that's the seed that's planted, that has no choice but to take root because there is nothing distracting it. Because you didn't get triggered, because you didn't go off, Christ can now work in them without your energy distracting Christ in them. And that's why we learn how to have temperance, and we learn how to love everyone unconditionally. Unconditionally meaning there is no condition that a person can place you under that will keep you from loving that person any more or any less than how much you do right now. For me, I learned how to look at everyone like my child. That was what I did for me. When I was able to look at every single person on this planet, no matter how old they were, no matter how young they were, Black, white, Hispanic, when I looked at everyone like my child, it enabled me to have the unconditional love to forgive people over and over and over and over again. My mom, my dad, my baby mama, who I still am learning how to heal. Real talk. But I love her unconditionally because there's no wrong she can do that ever keep me from loving her because I view her through my unconditional lens. Am I telling you to look at everyone as your child? No, I'm telling you to look at everyone the way that you need to see unconditional love.
Yeah.
If that's looking at everyone like your best friend, is that looking at everyone like your mother? Is that looking at everyone like your daughter or son? Whatever template in your mind that says there is nothing you could do that is going to keep me from loving you. Whatever that is what the Christ template is designed to bring out within each and every one of us.
I mean, Jesus told his disciples, like, what you have done to the least of these, to the prisoner, the person that's homeless, the person that's naked, the person that needs clothes, like what you've done to these, you've which are the least of these, you've done unto me. They're like, no, we never seen you in prison. Mm-hmm. We never seen you asking for food. It's like, no, you see me asking for food when you see one of your brothers asking for food or doing without. The Good Samaritan even. Like, you know what I'm saying? When I was hungry, you brought me food. When I was naked, you clothed me, all of those things. And so it's really to see, maybe for the Christian, you can see them as an emanation of Christ. That's deep. But an emanation of yourself or an extension of God, right? Each person. And even tying that into entertaining angels unaware, that you don't know who these people are, these messengers, that are extensions of ourselves. And that's really the big one, of seeing and treating people how you want to be treated and loving them like you would love yourself. But here we come into trauma and inner healing and all that stuff. Not everybody loves themselves. So if they see that, they would probably, this is probably why they benefit more with seeing them as God or Christ, because they honor Christ more than they would honor themselves. And they don't know that honoring themselves is honoring Christ. So that's probably why they wouldn't see them as an extension, because you don't really view yourself that high.
And that's actually so good. I actually, say something similar in the sense of, like, most people compartmentalize God because they don't want the power within themselves. They don't want it because the idea that they're the one that's ultimately in control is too much for them. So that's what I personally have realized, even on my experience, was that I'm here to understand my power. Because, even for me, at one point I had a whole team of spirit guides all around me. But then I had a moment of realization where I recognized that these spirit guides that were all around me were just projected illusions that my mind created so that I could delegate my own power away from myself. So that I can create a character in my head.
I got to send you my little documentary I put out. You got to watch it. It's on that. I need to send it to you for sure.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
Keep going.
It's real. It's so real talk, because it's like I have recognized that I literally created these energy containers in my head, and I'm like, okay, I can't deal with all this energy, so I'm going to create this archetype, and I'm going to give you a little bit of energy. So now, whenever I have a question about how to communicate something, I'm going to pray to you. Whenever I have a question about how to make money, I'm going to pray to you. And it's like
the money god or the money angel. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I eventually, and again, that served me. So I'm not even saying it's a wrong thing.
Exactly.
That served me in the time when I was learning how to step into my own power. But then when I wanted more power, when I wanted more co-creative energy, I had to start consolidating. So I had to start saying, wow, really all of this is just my higher self. Again, all of this is just really the infinite source that I've always been connected to. So I began to bring these different archetypes in, and I said, okay, you're not real. 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 This is the crazy thing too, because I consolidated all these beings, right? And then I started feeling so empowered, right? Wow. And I started progressing in this power. And I was like, wow, it's so much easier to manifest money right now, because it's like I'm believing that it's already in me. And that's the knowing, that's the vibration. Yeah. I'm believing that the relationships and the friendships that I want are already here. What happened next was so ironically funny, because now I found myself lonely in my head. I was like, okay, I got all the power now, and I know it's all me, but it's like my brain is so quiet now. So you know what I did? I recreated those characters. And I gave them the same power back again. Because now that I know that I have the power, I can play. So now that I know the power is all in me, I can create whatever experience I want to. So if I want to have an experience where I do have these people, now that I know that they're not the source of the power, I can just enjoy the archetypal presence they have in my consciousness. And again, that's the transmutation process.
Listen,
removing it all together, coming back to it in perfect balance.
People talk about, they talk to Jesus, right? I talk to Jesus. I talk to the Holy Spirit. I talk to God. Do you talk to all three of them? What about at once? Do they sound different? Or does God's voice have more bass? Is it an inner knowing? I'm telling you, like, the same voice of the Holy Spirit is the same. It's the inner knowing. It's the telepathic communication, the really speaking to your inner ear. It's the same feeling you're going to get when you're, doing deep Kundalini yoga, when you're doing, when I'm stargazing and we're seeing ships and we're seeing beings out there that are communicating with us. It's the same inner knowing. It's communicating with your intuition. It's a peaceful, that if there's anything that I can discern, it's only the intention, whether it's a peaceful voice or a peaceful intuition that's being communicated to you versus something malicious or something that's trying to trick you or cause you harm. Like but as far as like, yeah, his voice is more higher pitch, or I know it when he comes around. So again, God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit talking to them, add whoever, Archangel Michael, who, your ancestors or whatever the case is, like people, it's their template. You know what I'm saying? And some of them, their box set includes more pieces in it than yours, just because of their realm of understanding or what they've been taught, But
that's dope. Your box set has more pieces than some others. Yeah.
Like, do they sound different? Could somebody tell you? Because most Christians tell you they hear the voice of the Holy Spirit speaking to them.
For me, I look at not necessarily how they sound, but which dimension I'm receiving them through. Typically, when I'm receiving thoughts, and I'm receiving messages in thought form, then that's Christ. That's the Christ consciousness. When I'm receiving something intuitively, just strictly from feeling, that's God the Father for me. And I look at anything that I'm able to be present right now, because spirit is infinite, so it only shows up in an internal space, and the only eternal space we live in is the present moment. For me, whenever I act on something based on just what I'm seeing in front of me, that's me acting out of the Holy Spirit. For me. So it's like they all have the same voice to me. They just all use different intercoms. That's it. So it's cool. Like, yeah. So again, but that's my template that enables me to. And again, I think I want to talk about templates for a bit, because templates are my entire life, and I think the goal for us is to be able to find the template that best connects all the pieces for us.
Yeah. Is Christianity a good one?
Christianity is a great template, 100%. It's one it's one that only the strong can adopt, because now that I'm coming back to it, I can say a lot of baggage with it. It's a lot of baggage, and there's a lot of gaps in between the questions and the answers that you have to have an amount of faith to be able to bring you through.
The literal stuff, like if they take it literal, they may try to come cut your head off, or like
100%. Even say, for example, homosexuality, right? If I was someone who looked at the Bible and say homosexuality is wrong, it's a sin, it's abomination, and then I hear all these people judging it and saying these people are burning in hell, that's going to naturally trigger me and make me want to leave religion.
For sure.
However, in my new form of consciousness, because I left it, when I left it, I started understanding more about what was going on with the Romans and the Greeks at the time of the Council of Nicaea, when they were bringing all the stuff together that was going to go in the Bible. And so when I was able to understand the feminine imbalance on our planet, see, throughout our history, we've had imbalances of masculine energy where we had slavery, and then feminine energy where we've had chaos. And no one really talks much about chaos, because chaos is just so prevalent in our history. But these are all the times where the feminine energy ruled. And so what we see is that in times where feminine energy ruled, there had to be a masculine energy structure, boundary put in place that said, you can't do this anymore. And so again, when you can tell someone don't do it, but how is that message going to last, 2,000 years? Oh, no. So I have to tell a story about how angels came down into a city, and that how all the men wanted to have sex with these men in the city. And so because they wanted to have sex with them, I came down and I actually destroyed the city. See, that's something, that small thing that had to be put together just for the message of, for right now, as humans are evolving, men need to be more in their masculine energy than being in their feminine energy for a period of time. Now we're evolving back now where we're constantly falling back into it. Because again, it worked. It balanced the masculine energy up until this lifetime. So now we're like, yo, this is bullshit. And you're like, you're right, because we don't need it anymore. So it's all been perfect. Everything has perfectly served us. There's nothing that has not. You can ask any question about the Bible and why it had to happen, and I could tell you why it's perfect, because I know, because Christ is inside of me. He's talking to me. I know everything is perfect. Now it's just a matter of how we can communicate to people that it is already perfect.
Yeah, because as far as like, it's changed so much as far as Christianity is concerned and what the Bible is, and even the people who try to take it literal and they think that they're doing it to a T and all that kind of stuff, they're so far off from the mark, it's not even funny. You know what I'm saying? You hear some people who are just right on so many things, and then they say one thing like, oh, yeah, you missed it, dude. You're off.
You know, the bigger you are, the harder you fall.
Yeah.
I feel that way when it comes to our ego, when it comes to that. The more we think we know, the harder the shatter is when you're like, oh, my gosh, I had no idea. And that's what I see now. Is like, I remember all the times where my ego was shattered. I remember that feeling. And so now, even though I walk in truth, even though most of the words that I say, people cannot naysay or henceforth. And I'm constantly facing people that want to come to me, and then they're either upset or they disagree with something that I'm saying, and they chastise me or they judge me for it. And then there's always a point in conversation where I say something that shatters their ego. It's like, holy shit, I didn't think about that. And in this moment is the part where we have to be the most loving. Yeah. Because we know how much it hurts in that moment for our ego to shatter. Yeah. And not only that, but when the ego shatters, if you just pound them and say, oh, this is why I'm wrong, this is why I'm right, you should listen to me, dumbass. You do all of that, it's going to be so hard for them to receive.
They're not going to come back.
No, you're right.
I think I did that yesterday. I'm sorry. Some dude hit me up, and he checked out a couple of my podcasts. I think he jumped in our School of the Mystics one night, and he's still messaging me now. I had to block him, but I unblocked him. But anyway, he's like, man, I watched one of your videos, and it led me astray. And it was my video on the Kundalini and the Holy Spirit and how they're like the same thing. I got this whole breaking down from the Christianity when it first came out. Like, now there's Christians, you know, if you go to church on Sunday morning, your pastor might do a sermon on the Kundalini. Watch out, but it's watch out, because it's a demonic spirit that's kind of masquerading as the Holy Spirit is what they say. But I kind of go and show you how it's the same thing, and where even those teachings came from, which was a revival minister back in mid 2000s came out with this stuff talking about the Kundalini serpent in the churches. Anyway, he watched the video and he said, your video led me astray. And like, I wasn't having a great day. I just wasn't feeling it yesterday. Just some stuff lining up, and I kind of went off on him, and I was like, dude, hold on, he said your video led me astray. I was like, no, you were led astray before you got to my video. Right? You were broken. You were addicted to drugs, and I let him have it. I don't know if I should have. He said, hey, why are you mad? I was like, you coming at me, like accusing me and projecting on me like this? Like, come on, dude. Like, what? And making videos and blog posts about me and stuff. Like, come on, dude. So
I totally think Frank did the same thing.
When you respond like that, a lot of times you burn that bridge. I might have burned the bridge. I don't know. And I'm sorry if you're listening, but you know, it happens sometimes. We're, you know, only human. I can't get it right all the time, you know.
I think that the story where Christ, you know, walked into the church and saw the people gambling, and so he turned the tables in the church. I think what you just described is why that story is in the Bible, because it's like, I think it has to be known and that it's human to have a day.
Yeah.
Like Christ could have been like, oh man, these people who I just flipped the table over and told them to get the hell out of my house or my church, you know, they're probably never going to become Christian, or they're probably never going to like me. But it's like, we have to learn that, one, we have self-care, and there are some times where we're energetically not in that mood. Yeah. And that has to be okay, because again, we're 50-50. We're half soul, half flesh, and we have to feed both to stay alive.
Yep.
So it's like, when you've given your energy away to everyone and you don't have enough to hold extra space for other people, in my opinion,
which is what I do.
right, it's okay. Like that has to be okay. I tell people that all the time. I have days with my employees where I tell them, listen, normally I call and I'm like, hey, how's your day going? Oh my God, how's the family? Honestly, I don't give a shit today. I'm going to give you the exact guidelines of what I need to get done today. Tomorrow, I'll be fully charged again. I'll be able to hold space for you and go slow and do all that. But that's work. That's energy. It's like being around children. You know, you have children. The goal is to not ever, get mad or scream at your child, but it happens. You have days where you're like, yo, you're annoying me. Get away from me. Go sit down. Go play. These moments are becoming more imperative for us because we're transitioning in consciousness. See, when everyone thought that they were a child serving God, it was a lot easier to, want to hold space for these people. But now that people are transitioning into a higher level of consciousness, there are parents that are being formed. And so these parents have to learn how to separate their energy from the children. Otherwise, they're going to just constantly being drained. Every time someone says they're offended, you're going to be giving them a whole paragraph on what you really meant. And by the end of it, they're going to be like, oh, okay. And you're just going to be sitting there tired. And you're going to be mad. The anger is still going to be inside of you like, this motherfucker, I can't believe he's so stupid. I had to sit there and explain all this. I don't have time for this. I want to go watch Netflix. Right?
That's why I try to just make a video on it, just so I can. There's going to be 17 other personifications of that person, or whatever he's going through. 17 other people. So instead of going through it, hey man, watch this video. Hopefully, it explains it a little bit better. The first one you watched didn't really do a good job. Watch the second one.
But you know what's funny is that that's what the Bible is to us right now. Like someone has all these questions about something, and you're like, hey man, just go pick up that Bible, and it's got everything you need. And it's crazy.
But that's the easy answer, right? It's the easy way,
That's the easy answer. It's just crazy for me, man, because again, I never thought I'd be saying that ever again. I never in a million years. I was telling my dad, my family, my whole family's Christian. And they're like, we're just going to keep praying for you because prayer works. I'm like, yeah, keep on with that praying shit. All right. Boy, I'm here. And now it's like, okay, like I came back in and now it's like, they're giving God.
We may leave the shamanism at the door.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting now is that when I first was combatant with my church community and my family, I was really combating myself because what happened was once I found truth, once I began to see things for what they really were, I was trying to communicate it before I integrated it. And so anytime you try to communicate before you integrate, people are going to think you're crazy. People are going to think you're nuts because you haven't spent enough time trying to figure out how to build a relationship and relate to the other person because you just got all this new knowledge.
Yeah.
So for me, like I pushed everyone away thinking that they were pushing me away, but really it was because I hadn't learned how to deliver this message calmly.
Yeah.
Without raising my voice, without talking too fast, without stuttering. All these things, when you put all those together and you're really excited and your hair is whooped out and you didn't shave, you look like a fucking madman. So when I recognize,
I take that.
You're in your higher self now. You can be whoever you want. But it's like for me, this is what my family saw, and I think a lot of people need to hear this because there are a lot of people who are just now beginning their spiritual awakening, and they're gonna start seeing all the conspiracy theories. They're gonna start seeing, all the underground stuff, the stuff that we've already seen, processed, and integrated. Yeah. And they're gonna be like, "Yo, you have no idea."
This whole thing. That's what they're doing. Yeah, people you never thought would do it are now free the Wayfair babies. Yeah. What the hell are you talking about?
Exactly. And so it's like we're cycles. So they're about to be people. They're gonna be coming to us like
the aliens. Now Trump's tweeting about it and all this kind of stuff. Like now it's okay. It's always been like that for me though. Because we've always been, as prophets and as seers, we've been like a step ahead of what like God was saying in the spirit. And a lot of it's returning to the ancient path and those kind of things, to astrology, the plants, the angels, the elements, like all of that's in the Bible. And so as we try to integrate some of that stuff and they see you talking about it, they're like, hey, that's demonic. Stay away from it. And they kind of mark you but then let their favorite pastor wearing the suit and tie and presentation talk about it, and say, oh, brother so-and-so's got a good revelation on how to read the stars and what they mean in their names. I'm like, I've been telling you for 6 years talking about how to get back to the morning stars.
Yes,
it's crazy.
That has been my lesson, because I used to judge that.
Yep.
I used to say, how the fuck are y'all listening to this person? And he's just going up there hooting and hollering and screaming, got a nice suit on. But it's like, no. They're showing you who you need to become for them to listen to you.
That's true.
Do you have enough ego, or can you remove your ego enough to become the version of you that can be heard by millions? That's why I'm going back into the church. Because again, and I learned this when I first started my business. Number one reason why new business owners fail is because of their own creativity. I say this when I teach all my classes. When I first went into my business, everything I was trying to do, I wanted to be unique. I said, oh, I'm gonna do this. No one's ever done this. I'm gonna do this. Do this. And then you go out there, and I wasted thousands of dollars on marketing, $1,000 on my website, and got nothing in return for it. So I said, okay. I end up hiring a mentor. The mentor is like, why the fuck are you trying to try something new when you don't even know if it works? You're guessing. So he said, no, you need to look at what's already working. Look at the people that you want to attract, and look at who they're watching. Who are they clicking on? Who are the people who are shop your competition? Yeah. Right? Shop your competition. So when we shop our competition as light workers, they're pastors. They're the Joel Osteens in the world. So like, okay, this person has millions of followers online and offline, has all the money that he needs to create whatever world he wants to, and he didn't pay for it. So instead of judging that, me as a light worker, I want that. Because I know that once I get those things, I'm going to do with it what I want with it. And what I want with it is a template for New Earth. And so we began to, and this is the crazy part, because what happens is the people that the light community looks at as demons now become the teachers. So now you have to watch Joel Osteen. Like, people think that when the pastor says, repeat after me, or look to your neighbor and say this, they don't understand that magic. They don't understand the alchemy. They don't understand that I'm telling you to speak a spell right now. And the more times you say it, the more it resonates. You think they're saying, oh, just tell your neighbor one time. You think that's just by accident?
Man, they got to do this. It's a reason it works.
Multi-million-dollar industry. You think that's by accident? You think they're just saying, I'm just going to go up there and say whatever I want and people are going to give me money? You think seminary school is just by accident? But that's what happens when you reject this. When you reject people like that, you think that they're just doing fuckery. You don't recognize the skill that they have.
Yeah, even if it's not like
$1,000 suits every day, because they know that when they go up there, the longer you stay looking at me, the longer I have your attention. So if I put the bling on, you're captivated. So now when I speak about Christ, you got to listen.
But that's what the prosperity dudes did first thing. Somebody 100. Said years ago, they said the pimps left the corner. There's no pimp standing on the corner anymore. They all bought churches. It's like, oh, damn, that's true.
Ooh, that's so true.
And the bling, and come on, give me $15, prayer line, $10 prayer line, $100 prayer line.
Bring me my money.
Yeah, give me my money. Yep. And yeah, you got to bring them their money. And a lot of that's in there. A lot of it's in some of those denominations for sure.
But just think, there's nothing even wrong with it. There's nothing wrong. Here's the reason why. Because the people are still feeling fulfilled. Like, if I did the same exact thing and people are like, yo, you've changed my life, here goes $1,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of it's dark as hell though. You gotta,
But then it's based on their level of consciousness. So the system's not dark. The level of consciousness they're currently on in comparison to the level of consciousness that you're on right now, that's the only reason why you're saying it's dark, because you're in the light. So you're the one, you're a pterodactyl flying over it. So you see everything for what it really is. But don't forget that you were once the little bird that couldn't see shit. So it's like we can't judge them. We have to just say their job is to be who they are. Again, the darkest one is the best teacher. Joel Osteen is your best. If he's the darkest one, he's your best mentor.
I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about, like, if you don't give me your money, God's gonna take it from you. Like those guys. Like some of the dark witchcraft type stuff.
Look at what happens. Now imagine this. Now I've experienced even my own family members in this case.
Yeah.
Not saying that good or bad, but just providing a little perspective on it. I've had both my grandparents have been pastors, and my dad's a pastor right now, and I used to be a pastor. So I've been around pastors my entire life. You'll be surprised how much the sermon changes as the financial circumstances of the pastor changes. Now, if my daughter got sick, and I'm a pastor, and now she needs a surgery that I can't afford, as hard as I try to deliver a neutral sermon, there's going to be a little part of me that's going to be like, okay, I got to find a way to get these people really excited somehow because I want to take care of my daughter. So I'm not saying just because someone decides to do that, if they're right or wrong. What I'm saying is that's what's stirring in pastors' minds at times. Oh shit, we haven't been able to actually pay our bills in the church because people think we have money, but the reality of it is no one's been tithing.
Yeah.
And we don't get to see that. We don't know that. So it's like, I don't want to have to come out and say, y'all not tithing. And this is the reason why the church ain't growing, because everyone's going to get mad and be like, well, screw you. So I have to find a way now to say it in a creative way to either get you excited or to find a way to communicate this so that people don't think that it's all about money with me. Because because you're in a donation industry, the second you bring up money, it's going to trigger people who have money attachment issues. Because it's a very real.
I mean, I see what you're saying, and I think there's some of those out there. Maybe the ones I'm thinking about are just the ones who are like, they're putting all these crazy stipulations, and they're putting curses on you, like if you don't, like they're literally like cursing you if you don't give. And so, but at the same time, like I find it more like if you're open and honest about like your needs and saying, hey, like if you guys like the AC, if you guys like this building, then it takes money, it takes money. But then I see what you're saying, because they're only going to give so much. Right. So and then they're going to say within themselves, well, the light bill ain't number $400 a month. Like, why we got, and they're just going to reason within themselves. Right. No, so you got to give these grandiose things. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with asking for money. It goes back to, if you believe in it, guess what? You ain't going to hesitate supporting it. Like if I'm going to a church and I believe in what they're doing, I'm gonna give. I want to see it expand. I want to make sure that there's pastors wanting for nothing. I want to make sure that that we're taking care of this place versus him like demanding me give him money and lying about stuff like God is gonna punish me if I don't give him money. Like I feel a certain type of way. I came out of a lot of that. I had I thought God was in the mob, dog. Like they told me like if I didn't pay my tithes, then God was going to take it from me next paycheck. And we ended up like owing God like hundreds of dollars because we couldn't pay that tithe. And then they would hit us with sermons like, if you don't pay it, God will find a way to take it from you. And the way God takes it from you is making your car break down or your washing machine stop working. And so that's God taking what you owe him. And like literally in a lot of the prosperity movements, they taught a lot of similar things, telling you that you're robbing God if you don't give them money. Like that's there. I think when it comes to, there is a such thing as manipulation. There is a such thing as good white and black magic. And what a lot of people think that black magic is, it would be some of the people we run with in the shamanism and occult and psychics, and they think that that's dark witchcraft. I've seen more dark witchcraft going on in a lot of these churches than I've seen in any witches circle on the internet, like for sure.
Interesting. Wow. You said a lot that I want to piggyback on. So me personally, I don't see any dark, but that's only because, again, I look at everyone as my kids. So if I'm seeing dark, it's so dark, I'm only judging my own kids, which means I'm only judging my own self because my kids are.
Well, what if your kids like bullying the other kids and stuff though? Wouldn't you correct them? Say, hey, bro, you can't do that, man. You're abusing your power.
Right. So what we do is we teach them. So again, by recognizing that I can see an issue, the fact that I can see an issue means that I'm the higher conscious being. And that's something that I want your followers to always remember, especially you, King, because you're a very old soul. What that means is 95% of people that you observe, you're going to have a higher consciousness than. So you're a parent on this planet. So it does no good to serve or to judge even the pastors, because they're your children, because you are someone that has a higher consciousness perspective on what they are doing. So that the only reason why you saw what you saw was because you are the parent. So, and that's empowering, because that's the reason why. That's why I said, once you realize you have the power to complain, you also have to realize that you are the solution. So once you move into being the solution, you recognize there's no point of judging the thing that you're having to be a solution for. So it's like, these pastors are young souls. These pastors are people that are so living in a scarcity mentality that they feel like their only choice is to be dishonest, like a little kid when they're scared. They lie and they try to do things, and then we have to teach them, hey, listen, if you would have just communicated with me, I would have given you everything that you wanted.
Yeah.
That's our lesson as higher evolved beings. See, we let the material world confuse us because we see people who are actually older than us, and we think that they're actually older than us. We've been recycled through this experience so many times, bro. That's the reason why you're able to say, oh, that's not right. That's not the way it used to be. And so our job, we come in these lifetimes to recalibrate our children. But then we have a time where we need space again, and we leave. We go into the heaven space. And then we go into a space and we come back and we see how the kids did. And we're like, oh shit, stuff is messing up again. Okay, what's messing up? Okay, well, the pastor, he's really trying to get his stuff together, but he's asking for so much money right now because he's afraid of living in an abundance mentality. Okay, how did he get that way? How did that mentality get in him? What part of him is still not healed? And so these are the questions as the parents that we have to ask if we're truly able to be. And that's even why the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. Mm-hmm. We're the ones that are designed to inherit the earth, which is why we're the ones that are naturally going to end up coming out on top, because there are people, again, that inevitably have not been doing the work because they've been waiting on the teachers to come back and give them the work. The people who are in the church right now that you're saying are doing things wrong, who's telling them? And who's able to tell them in a way that they can actually hear it, if not the actual teachers?
Yeah. That was the biggest, I tell you that was the biggest revelation for me, because there was, for years I got into like exposing it and calling it out, and we would do videos, and I've got a lot of my music where I called it, like my music was like attacking them, and there was only 4 people who were like listening in those streams. You had to know who these preachers were. You had to know doctrine. You had to know theology to even understand what the hell we were talking about. But I was known as that guy, right? I was calling out all TD Jakes, Joel, Benny Hinn, all of them, and that was what I was known by. But it was just this little simple revelation, and kind of what you're saying was like, I just felt the Lord told me to simply, listen, if you want to stop false doctrine, if you want to stop false prophets, it's not singling them out and calling their name and pointing fingers. That's not how you do it. He said the right way to correct false teaching and false doctrine is to simply teach it the right way. Teach right giving, teach the right tithing, teach, right spirit, right knowledge and understanding. Teach it the right way. And in doing that, you'll be able to reach more people, and it won't be anything personal. Because I found out I used to be mad at those pastors. I used to be mad at them. But then I also had to understand the scripture says that the people having itching ears, they go find those people. Like just say we dealt with Creflo Dollar or, Joel Osteen, and they're gone. Huh?
I grew up in Creflo Dollar's church.
Really? If we dealt with them, then there would be another one to take its place next week. Exactly. And so those same people would find one even amongst themselves. He's the next Creflo. Tell us what we want to hear. So the people, you're not forced to go to any of these churches or religions. You go there because something resonates with you, like you're saying. So again, it was deep for me, to understand that it wasn't them particularly, but in the way to combat it was not like being confrontational or calling that one individual out, but it's just simply teach it the right way, and it worked,
Wow. I think one of the things that our, the light community needs to really understand is what you just said. Anytime you call something out, whether it be a system, whether it be a government, whether it be a boss, CEO, anytime you call something out, you are putting their security at risk. Anytime you put any organism's security at risk, they will fight back.
That's what I did with that message. That dude inboxed me. I was like, bro, I put my neck out for this. This is my bread and butter. And you attacking? Yeah, come on.
So we look at the government system. We're like, oh my God, this person spoke out about this and now he's dead. Yeah. It's like if you were the government and if someone had information that could bring you down, you would do the same thing. What do you do? Let someone take down everything your family built, even if they don't understand it. They didn't talk to you. Yeah. Someone's trying to squander your name. You know, if I'm a multi-billionaire and someone's like big saying like, you know, one of my biggest fears is that I become a celebrity and then someone doesn't like me or something, and all of a sudden they just say, oh, he's a pedophile. It's like when you throw a name, something out like that, even if it comes out completely false, your name is tarnished somehow, some way, some form. You know, all these guys that say, oh, that's real spiritual warfare to me. Again, destroying someone's image is destroying their heavenly self. So by you, as you throw out, oh, he sexually assaulted me, even if it's false, now that image is now associated to the consciousness of everyone in America now. So that's like one of my biggest fears about being in that space. But it's like, anytime you call something out, anytime you say this is evil, this is bad, this needs to be stopped, the other side is going to hear, oh, so you're trying to stop me. Okay, so I guess we're fighting now. Okay, let's fight. And then you lose, because what this earth simulation is here to teach us is that you won't win through fighting. You will only win through transcendence. So it made the forces here that you think you can fight unbeatable. So you're not going to beat the government. You're not going to beat the police. You're not supposed to beat them. You're just supposed to transcend them. They are designed for you to become stewards over. But we have to learn how to win and fight the good fight. And it's with teaching. It is with embodying. And through that, we skip and we transcend all war, all chaos. We simply vibrate above it. And I really want the light community to get this, because there's so much stuff that we see that need to be changed, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide that change. But we are so quick to judge these systems. And these systems, like a lot of times, the systems that we're judging, our ancient selves built that system, which is why we're judging so harshly against it. I started having memories when I had my awakening that I was a part of the first Illuminati. I have complete memories of who was there, who I am in that table, what the intention was of being in the enlightened ones, and our intention for being able to be guardians over this planet. Lo and behold, that was the number one system. I was like, they are the darkest, most evil systems that I've ever heard of. I didn't realize that they got it from me. But I also realized that I can't heal what I don't take accountability for. Until you claim something as saying, this is my fault, you don't have the template that's needed to correct the change. So if you want to fix any system, step one, claim it. If you don't want to fix it, stand on the outside and just keep talking shit about it. But if you want to heal a system, claim it as your own. Just like if you want to heal a child, you can say when your child grows up and he's like making bad decisions, you can say, oh, my child just fucked up. Bad, like he just went on his own. I did as best as I could do, whatever. It's just bad children. This whole generation screwed up. Or we can look at the parenting skills that we had as an upbringing and say, where did I miss the mark? And how can I take ownership of that so that I can see clearly how to provide the healing in my child's life?
That's what it's about, man. Responding with love. The only way to transcend it, the only way to fight it and attack it is with love. It's not tearing down. It's about responding with love. Moving. That's what fuels your faith is love. And you got to be able to walk in both. And so once you understand that, the game, your weapon is love. That's how you get to the next level, is responding with love. Man, we did 2 hours and 40 minutes. And
wait, today, just now?
Well, we did an hour, and then we did an hour and 40 minutes, and then like an hour earlier, hour and 10 minutes. So good talk, man.
I was going to tell you this as well. So one thing that Spirit does for me in my life is that whenever, and I told Spirit to do this, I said, anytime I connect with someone who is Spirit tribe, who is soul tribe for me, put a synchronicity in my presence. So every time I meet someone, I either have the same earring as them. I either have, a scar that resembles same thing that they have. And I just wanted to say that I don't know if you knew, but I have a tattoo, a red tattoo of the flower of life on my neck.
Brothers.
Yes. So I was like,
Brothers.
I was like, thank you for letting me know that. That makes, you just solidified it for me. So I know now, and that's what made me really say, like, remember that you are a king, because you're designed to be able to look at entire systems and saying what needs to be changed in them. But it's God gave you, like, God's trusting you to be steward over a large amount of people, of area. So just remember that.
For sure.
Yeah,
100%, man. Again, I enjoyed it. I'm down to work with you. Do it again, man. I enjoyed our connection, kindred spirits for sure, and so much more that we could have talked about. Again, I know we did it at the end of the first part, but go ahead and give your links again and stuff like that for people who want to check you out.
Absolutely. You can primarily find me on my Facebook page. I have two Facebook pages, Daryl Garth, DarrylGarth, and also Pharoh Tahar, Pharoh, Tahar, Tahar. Also, if you're looking for any type of guidance, coursework, or just wanting to chat with me, you can book a session at Christ Conscious Coaching on Facebook. And you can also find me on Instagram at Daryl Garth Coaching. Thank you again, TruthSeekah, for opening this space and truly facilitating. You are a master facilitator. So truly, I appreciate that. You are a master at cultivating the energy into a space that births co-creation. So thank you.
Hey, enjoyed it, man, and that's definitely it. I've seen those connections, like bringing something together, especially events, and back in the day it was prayer meetings with people who didn't know each other. They only knew me. And there was 12 guys there. None of them knew each other, but they all knew me. And we're in prayer, like in a good, like a deep prayer, and I'm looking around. I'm like, we're here because of me. You know what I'm saying? And so those, in the scriptures, it talks about that being a gift too, like the gift of administration, to be able to set things up and administer it and stuff like that. So be conscious, man. Be in the moment and understand how much power that we have to set things up like that, and to allow people to experience those things too, especially when it comes to Christ. I'm sure you're getting these too, but I'm getting overwhelmed right now of messages from people saying that they've like abandoned their faith, or you know what I'm saying, or they, even the ones who have never been a part of Christ and even know what that means. And so because of our work and you know using the Bible and using Christ in those terms, and it's helping people to kind of step into that relationship, which is an easy one. He done the work for us, like understanding. He bids us and beckons us to come. There is no resistance. He said, come, learn of me. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. Come, I have many things that I want to show you, and only when you're ready. And you got to go through some more things, and then once you learn, I'm going to show you more. And so getting those messages and feedback from people, man, it's amazing. I know you're getting it too, so good stuff, man.
I definitely am, and I'm glad that we're both getting these messages, because it's only just revealing to us our greater work that's here. We are messengers. We come from two worlds. We've seen both worlds. We've seen the light and the shadow, and now we have perspective. Now we have wisdom, and now we know how to relate to the people who need our message the most.
Yep, 100%. We have a contrast. We can see it. We know what it looks like.
Absolutely.
Many blessings, bro. We'll do it again soon. Thanks so much for hanging out with me.
No problem, brother. Love you.
Shalom. Love you, man. Peace.
Peace.
Pharoh Tahar, ladies and gentlemen. Daryl Garth. Hope y'all enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the talk. Really good stuff. It's so funny. Like, the more you talk and the more you discuss, you find out that you have more and more and more in common with people. And we had so much in common, and keep digging, and so much that I didn't even go into because it wasn't on topic, but I've been writing a bunch of it down. So I'm sure we'll do another talk, pick his mind. He mentioned UFOs and aliens and extraterrestrials and the Bible, and his eyes lit up when he did, and mine does too. That's near and dear to my heart. So love to have him back on again for another talk. We did 2.5 hours, and it's really good stuff. Yeah, thank you guys for all the support. Thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat. I'm reading a bunch of the messages here. So yeah, it's cool to again be able to kind of communicate the love and and compassion of Christ through a conversation, and you guys are able to pick up on that, and that's so awesome. Shout out to you, Nikolai. I see your comment here about that. But yeah, with that, I'm gonna say peace and shalom. Thanks for hanging out with me. I got a bunch more stuff lined up for the rest of this week. I think we got a live stream tomorrow night with, again, Laura Erica, my friend, Word Magic, and then I think I have 2 more Thursday. So still got 3 more episodes to do this week. Y'all have fun. We'll do it again very soon. Peace, peace.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.